next part of the program is a discussion and a question and answer session. And it's about the spotlight on Zambia as a regional hub. The moderator for this discussion is Regina Mulenga. Regina is a seasoned banker with over 29 years experience with banks like Citibank, HSBC, Equator, and Barclays. Just remember that during this discussion, you can ask your questions by going onto your Q&A, and Regina will try and answer as many of those questions as possible during the course of that discussion. I'll hand over now to Regina to introduce her panel.
Thank you very much, Clive, for the introduction. And on our panel today, I have 4 distinguished individuals. We have Prospero Wanda, who is the founding member of Opelo Capital. And Opelo Capital provides development services to early stage businesses. I have no doubt that as we discuss today, Prospero will give us insights that have been drawn from more than 7 years experience in research and analysis of growing business that provide positive return and social impact, which is the impact investment businesses that we're talking about today. I also have Cass. Cass, have you joined us? Cass is another founding member from Amano Capital, and he would indicate to us whether what is obtaining on the ground supports a realistic expectation as for Zambia as a potential regional hub for impact investment. I also have in the meeting room Kapumpe Musakanya, or Valentine Kapumpe Musakanya, co-founder and chief operating officer, who will talk about his story and how his company is playing its part in the agricultural supply chain development. The 4th member of the panel, definitely not the least, is Messi Zulu, who is an investment associate and ESG officer at Goodwell Investments. There's a saying that goes that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Messi recently led a Goodwell Investments that was done in Zambia. And she is going to share this with us during our discussion. Having introduced the members, what is our subject matter of our discussion today? Today, we want to put a spotlight on Zambia as a regional hub investing. And I will start with Prospero. Prospero, you've done some analysis on the market. Can you share with us as to what needs to happen to attract new impact investors to the Zambian market?
Thank you so much for the introduction. So when we speak of impact investment, we're looking at, as mentioned earlier during the presentation, we're looking at financial return as well as a social and or environmental impact. And I think that when we look at some that we're facing, challenges when it comes to electricity, affordable housing, food security, our healthcare sector, infrastructure, we can clearly see that there's a gap and there's a need for resource mobilization, and there's a need for impact investors to come onto the market. Compared to traditional assets, generally are able to take that additional risk and in those specific areas where we're having such key is for investment. Does it have a business case? Is it viable? Is it scalable? Is it going to provide an adequate return? And specifically with impact investment, can we actually measure the impact that will be provided by this investment? So I think that it really, the core of it is the type of businesses that are being started. Are they attractive to investors? Are they well structured? Are operations very clear? Do we have transparency in terms of once the investment is placed into the company, the accounting, the way that cash is moving in the business? Is it scalable? So has the business looked at, okay, I'm starting here, this is the product or service that I have, but once investment comes in, is there a place where this investment is going to be channeled in such a way that the business grows? We're actually able to see that impact that the investment has had. So fundamentally, the business, just the operating environment has to be conducive. That goes into the regulators that we have on the market, the regulation. Generally speaking, I think you don't want to stress an investor. Investor comes onto the market. If something can go wrong, anytime you do investment, there's always risk. But should something go wrong, are there structures in place to protect the investor? Is there a defined way that things happen when it comes to starting the business, operating the business? Do we have that stability where you can have a forecast that's made and you can make reliable assumptions in your forecast? So I think that's very important for investors to have that confidence in the environment that they are placing the investment in.
Thank you. And perhaps another question from me is, why impact investment and not just investment? What's the difference? Why impact investment?
Right, great question. And I think it's an area that is still growing, but generally traditional investment, anytime you're investing, you're looking at growing your future income, you're looking at a return primarily. So you're going to use different mechanisms, whether that's equity or bonds, or you invest in property, but ideally you're looking exclusively at financial return. Impact investment expands on that. So we have the financial return, but we also have an intentional, basically intent to have a positive impact on society and or the environment. So I think there's a lot of benefits that impact investment provides. Firstly, you're looking at, especially in our region, anytime you're addressing a social challenge, you're actually identifying a market. The social challenges that we have in the continent are telling you where the market is. So I think impact investment makes sense, just providing that viable business opportunity. So for example, we have load shedding and we have got challenges with electricity. We have statistics where over 50% of the population in Africa doesn't have access to electricity. That's actually a market. That's a product that can come into the market and provide a solution, basically, that if you price it right and if you get the business model right, basically you have an investment opportunity, a solid investment opportunity.
Okay.
The second reason I would say is your traditional asset classes are quite different in our market compared to other markets. I'll give an example of the stock exchange. When you look at the Australian stock exchange or the New York stock exchange, you're looking at over 2,000 companies on the stock exchange. Our local exchanges, the Lusaka Stock Exchange, have just over 20 companies. The Botswana Stock Exchange might have 36 companies. So the traditional investments aren't as developed. So you almost have some sort of bottleneck when it comes to providing that necessary investment, mobilizing the resources where they need to go. So impact investment is able to take on that space.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Wanda. And I think if I can take away something, what needs to happen is we need scale. We need a conducive environment because we know that whoever is coming through, when they bring in the investment capital, they obviously wanted to make a return on that. In as much as there is social benefits that they would like to deliver, they have to not lose the capital and they must make a return on that. Thank you very much for that. And, I can see that Kapumpe is quite eager to come us through, but can I just check, do we have Has on the line? Okay, thank you. So I think I'll go to Kapumpe, who has walked the talk in here. And perhaps he can just speak to his story around his business. You are a beneficiary of impact investment.
Yes.
Yeah. So at least you have a good story to tell us around in Zambia. So as a recipient, first and foremost, you know, how did you, you know, what did you have to do to become impact investment ready? Since this is one of the as businesses are not being ready, and everyone says, you know, this company is not investment ready, but you were investment ready, you received the investment. So how did you go about, and how did you get to be impact investment ready?
Thanks, Regina. Just a few points. It was fundamentally, I think the first thing is about the team. You need to have a dynamic team. Any potential investor or partner is interested in the business just as much as it is interested in the team, and they're going to invest in the team as well, and they look to be able to grow with the team. One of the other things we had to do to become investment ready when you're looking for a certain amount of ask is look at alternative ways. And what was strategic for us was and important were partners and collaboration to ensure that we were able to put some skin in the game to reduce the risk for potential investors coming into the business and people we're going to collaborate with. Partners and collaboration really did reduce our operating costs and what we were asking for. So, for instance, investment doesn't necessarily have to be cash. We went the alternative route and got various technical assistances. There's an entity called Partners in Food, and under that umbrella, you've got entities like the Buller Group, Hershey's, GM Mills, etc. So we got a lot of technical advice and hundreds of hours of them reshaping our business, which is something we bring to the table. And that wasn't necessarily cash, it was a lot of hours, that was a lot of technical assistance, and prepared us to reshape the business and the way we looked at it. So we received it in that way. And I think that was very important for potential investors to show that we were ready and we were on a journey. And well, we're still on a journey anyway. But that I think was important. It's about the team and the technical assistance that we received, and it wasn't necessarily all cash. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of what you planned to achieve, where are you on that journey, and what are you doing to co-opt other businesses?
It's a typical approach in Zambia to go it alone. And we learned the hard way that you can't go it alone. Your ask and your costs are going to be very, very high.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do, again, it comes back to partnership and collaboration. We broke down our business. We were operating in an informal value chain, and we've had to try and formalize it. That value chain is beans, dry beans, pulses, and the processing of it. So, for instance, we got an entity called Livewell. Livewell Social distributes health products to rural areas, and they get their agents to sell health products. We, on top of that, and they now were able to distribute seed to the last mile, to the households, and we're now able to identify which households have got that beans that we want to uptake. So we segmented our business in that way. And then on the other side of distribution, where we had a huge ask initially on having to procure a lot of capital equipment, so the trucks and things like that, we had another partnership formed with another entity called Capital Fisheries, who now is entirely responsible for that, and leaves us with us being able to do what we're good at in certain part of what we think we're good at. And those collaborations and segmentation within the value chain help each other operate a little better. But because the opportunities are so vast within the value chains, for anybody looking within the agricultural value chains. It's not possible for one company to go it all alone and take over the value chain. So in terms of where we are in the journey, still maybe about 20%, 18 to 20% of our journey. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Kapumpe, for sharing. And I think I would like to underscore maybe two things that you have talked about. One was about not going alone. And I think, previous research that was done in the Zambian Impact Capital, in the Zambian Impact Investment area, we found that, the scale of the demand was rather low, whilst the investors were looking for a much bigger ticket to put on the table.
Yeah.
And I think when you are collaborating and working with others, then you do achieve the scale, and it makes life much easier for the investor to come in and work. And I think you also talked about, someone receiving technical assistance. Every investor that comes in, they want to make sure that, you do perform, they get their money back, and, they also make a return on that investment. So I think for me, that is good. And I'm particularly happy to hear about the value chain. And hopefully, we'll start to see, those, down the line now also become bigger corporations.
Yeah.
And for the people listening, I hope this is a demonstration to show that, yes, in Zambia, people are thinking differently. They are no longer going it alone. They are working in groups. The technical assistance that is there is available. And, you can actually do scale up a business and bring it up to a meaningful level. So thank you. Is there anything else you would want to add? Or maybe Prospero, would you like to add anything? Okay, thank you very much. And I think we can loop in Messi, who's been anxiously waiting to join the conversation. Messi was actually also involved in the task force for the National Advisory Board for Impact Investment when it was just being set up. And I think, one of the things we were talking about was, when are we going to get one investment from Goodwill Investments that is Zambian? Because the company she works for operates in India and Sub-Saharan Africa, but we had seen nothing in Zambia. So Messi, welcome. I hope you can tell us a little bit more about, your story on the that you were involved in. And as you do that, from your experience, I think I would like you to just highlight to us from a policy and regulatory point of view, what is it that needs to change that would make the flow of impact investment much easier to come through into the country? Messi?
Yes, thank you very much, Regina, for the question. I'm very happy to be here and to share some of our learnings and experiences. I think for investors such as us, we're early stage investors. We come in when a company has proven the product market fit and is about to scale. So usually ticket sizes between $500,000 to about 5 million. And when entering a market, one of the things that an investor is in our line of work is important for an investor in our line of work is liquidity. And so the ability to move money into the country easily, to make investments as well as exit. Because an impact investor is looking, in addition to the social and environmental impact, they're looking at those returns at the end of their investment in a company. So the ability to, during the duration of the investment, move money in and out of a country is very crucial. And this actually also feeds into the creativity of the instrument. So we are usually flexible type of investors that work with what a company needs at that particular time. So for example, if a company is not, or a business is not ready to do a full-on priced round, which can be very expensive, you know, for other reasons, maybe they're not able to value their company, we're flexible enough to extend a loan that converts into equity, so a convertible instrument. But that also rests on kind of the regulatory framework of the country and how easy it is to execute such a deal. So I'll give an example. We haven't experienced this in Zambia yet. Our last investment was quite straightforward and easy, but one of our investments in the region, we were trying to execute on a convertible loan. This company needed money to achieve milestones before raising a bigger round. And, you know, the regulator, you know, made it difficult for us to execute on that deal. It took about 7 months, which is very long for a deal such as that. You know, an instrument such as that normally take about three months to execute on that. So if you're an investor and there are those kind of regulatory complexities, you start to weigh, is this worth, you know, the expenses and the type of resources to execute on those deals? And usually those type of deals are smaller ticket sizes. And you start to look at the legal costs that are building up, trying to, you know, shoot through regulatory hoops. So I think that those are some of the areas that, you know, as Zambia is developing as a market, a regional hub for investment, to look at what the regulatory framework is and to ensure that it's friendly towards, you know, making investments, pulling out money, as well as being creative around the financial instruments. Another thing that I think is important, and I think James touched on it, and also Dr. Mwape earlier on, and something that I'm extremely passionate about is the financing towards the early stage. I think in previous years in Zambia, private equity kind of later stage investments has been quite common because it's, you know, it's easy, businesses are more stable, etc. But the ticket sizes and the activity around early stage where we typically operate, and even earlier so, is an area for a lot of development. And that's where businesses fail. They fail at the earlier stages of the investment cycle. And so I think from a policy perspective, and I'm happy that Prospero is doing this with the partners, with partners such as Bongo Hive and ICA, to develop a lot more funding at the earlier stage. So really around angel investors, early stage investors, really bringing out the technical support and education of how to do this and making it attractive because it is a viable option. Various countries in Africa, such as Uganda, Tanzania, all have angel networks. And for me, is why not Zambia? You know, so really catalyzing investment at that earlier stage, really pouring money into those companies, I think is definitely also a top priority from a policy perspective. And then of course, there's also taxes as well, making taxes attractive for investors so that when they exit, their returns are not eaten up by unreasonable taxes. So those are the three, I think, big areas that I would highlight just to answer your question.
Thank you very much, Messi. And I think perhaps I'm reminded that we're running out of time, but perhaps this is just a question for everybody on the panel. Yeah, we all know that Zambia is politically stable. And, you know, from what we have heard, there are quite a number of market prospects. And what do you then think our discussion is putting a spotlight on Zambia as a regional hub? Zambia is a land-linked country, land-linked, not landlocked. We no longer said that. Land-linked country by about 8 countries. So we are advocating for Zambia as a regional hub for impact investment. Yeah. So what is it that Zambia needs to become a regional hub for impact investing?
I can attest, try and contribute to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need better structures with perhaps on the borders. better structures to be able to participate in those regional markets. Again, I'll go back to our own example and the pressures that we see on our supply chain, where throughout the course of 20 to November, a 47% increase in the price of the commodity. And that's with no value addition. And that pressure came really, not only from climate change, COVID, but in particular from the DRC. The DRC putting a lot of pressure on our commodities there. And I don't think a lot of Zambian companies are structured yet, and policies not structured for us to participate in those benefits across the border. And I think that's something that really has to be done, because, for instance, our product might sell at equivalent to 0.8 cents on retail per unit. It wholesales at $1.5, $1.8 on wholesale in DRC. And our company is not unique in that sense, but we need to be able to participate in those advantages within the region. And I think this is where government needs to facilitate that. And I think that makes it a lot more attractive for other parties coming in, that Forex component that Mercy was talking about as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Kapumpe. Prospero, do you want to, what is it that, needs to happen for Zambia to really become the regional hub that we are advocating for?
Okay, I'll just pick up on what Namaya had mentioned earlier about the ecosystem and the work that Prospero is doing around that. I think developing an impact investing ecosystem in Zambia is critical for not just investment into Zambia, but even regionally. I think that we have to take lead on that. That's from incubator programs to accelerator programs to business enablers, and actually ensure that those structures are in place, and that is assisting to develop the businesses that impact investors can basically invest in. The other point is on research. I think that when it comes to our advisory services, when it comes to data collections, I can attest that one of the most painful things is gathering data. And without information, it's very difficult for an investor to make a decision. So I think that we need to have a research hub. We need to have a research focus that's not just, again, on Zambia, but just on the region as a whole. And if we are known as a place where you can get that data on the entire region, I think that's also going to be attractive to investors.
Okay, thank you. Mercy, from your perspective?
Yes, there are two. Sorry, thank you, Regina. There are two things for me that I'm going to speak about, in addition to what the rest of the panelists have spoken about. And that is the two things that I'm passionate about: getting funding, as I've spoken before, expanding the investor base at the early stage, because investors feel comfortable when other investors have invested. So if they see activity in a particular market, that's more attractive to them, and that draws them in. The second one is making support services accessible to businesses. And this is from an affordability point of view. In our experience in the markets, and comparing to other markets in Africa, legal services, finance services are quite expensive for businesses that are trying to develop. And those are the things that investors look at when they look at investor readiness. So I also think that resources need to be put into developing and expanding those support services to entrepreneurs who can't afford maybe a fully fledged to have a lawyer on retainer. It's expensive for impact investors to have lawyers. I can't imagine the burden on smaller businesses. So to really start to build that resource center, affordable, good quality, accessible resource center for businesses in the market, to further develop them and make them attractive for investors.
Okay. Thank you very much. And as we open up, I think for Q&A from the people who have tuned in, just one takeaway: what do SMEs need to do to become impact investment ready? And I'll start with Mercy, who's in investing. just one thing that you think the SME should do to be investment ready?
Yes, governance. I think governance is a huge
Governance.
internal workings of the business, making
Okay.
sure your company is
Thank you.
functioning.
I just wanted to hear that. And for Kapumpe, just one thing that an SME need to do to be impact investment ready?
The team.
Team, yeah. And Wanda?
An implementable strategy.
Implementable strategy, yeah. Have a plan. Okay. Thank you very much. I think at this point in time, we are able to receive some questions if they are ready. Thank you very much. Don't go away. You'll be the one to answer the questions.
Thank you very much, panel. Thanks, Regina. As Regina says, don't go away. Before because there are quite a lot of questions that are coming through on the Q&A. But prior to that, we've got a short video from Emma Parker. Emma Parker is the founder of Impact Capital Africa, which is an innovative conference that's trying to bridge that gap between the SMEs and the investors. And is also trying to create that ecosystem in order to make it easier for SMEs to access finance. She's also a co-founder of Musangu Foundation and also works with Anglo-American and has many and lots of experience in Africa. So just a quick short video on the launch of ICA, the 3rd season from Emma Parker.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma Parker and I'm founder of Impact Capital Africa. Firstly, I'd like to welcome all of you here today, and it's great to see that there's so much interest in Impact Capital Africa and access to finance in Zambia. I'm just going to spend the next few minutes talking about Impact Capital Africa and what we do and what the opportunities are for businesses that are seeking finance. So Impact Capital Africa was set up in 2017, 2018 to be able to support Zambian businesses and domestic, regional and international impact investors to be able to connect and do deals. And since we've been founded, we've screened over 400 businesses. We've worked with over 70 businesses to support them to actually understand if they are investment ready and support them to become investment ready. We've connected them with impact investors through a number of different channels. Firstly, our online project origination platform called Impact Starter. And secondly, through both in-person and now in the time of COVID, virtual pitching events. And of those businesses, we've supported over 20 deals to be done between a number of different businesses with a cumulative value of over $85 million. So how can you get involved with Impact Capital Africa? Well, ICA works to be able to support Zambian impact enterprises to be able to connect and meet with international impact investors. One of the first steps would be for you to register on the ICA website. And the website allows you to refer your business to the ICA team, where we will make sure that you meet our eligibility criteria. And those criteria can be found on the website, or you can get them from a member of the Prospero team. Once we know that your business actually meets the eligibility criteria, you'll be asked to go through an investment readiness assessment. And this assessment is a series of questions about your business, where if your business is sort of ready to be able to progress through an investment process. I think one of the main drawbacks that businesses in Zambia face when looking to raise finance is, one, understanding whether their business is in a position to be able to raise the amount and type of finance that they're looking for. But two, if all of the documents and all of the resources that are available for an investor to actually look at are in place. And that investment readiness assessment actually looks at your business and its health and readiness to go through the investment process. Out the back of that assessment, what we will do is we'll prepare a summary that will come to your business, and it will highlight to you where we think there are potential risk areas in your business's readiness in being able to actually access finance. And those areas are then for you to actually, as a business owner, understand where you need to spend some time to address those gaps. There is an opportunity for you to be able to potentially be referred to Prospero to be able to access specific technical assistance. But equally, what's incredibly important is that you as a business owner needs to understand your business and be able to discuss your business with an investor. Just because you have an investment advisor appointed doesn't mean that it stops being your responsibility to know how to present your business. And I think these are really important tips and things that the businesses and the business owners who've had success through the ICA process have addressed and really, really well. So I talked about Impact Starter earlier. Impact Starter is an online secure platform. It allows you to create a profile that investors from anywhere in the world can view. The investors that can actually access the platform do so through having a username and a password, and those are only issued by us. So it's a secure network and a secure platform that only approved investors can actually access. New to Impact Starter this year is also an investor area where registered SMEs can actually peruse the investors that are registered with Impact Starter and learn a little bit more about the investors that will be looking at your profile. If an investor likes what they see on Impact Starter, they have the opportunity to request more information about your business. And they can do that and then get access directly to you, where you can engage directly and start exploring more about sharing about your business and hopefully progressing towards more detailed conversations. It's really important in this information that you're honest about your business and that you engage constructively with investors. And then one of the other key tools that we've always used for sort of engaging and matching with investors is an in-person conference. The first was in 2018, the second in 2019, and they've been seen as a huge success, both for businesses, the broader Zambian ecosystem, but also by investors. Investors see the event as an easy go-to portal to be able to actually see the best of the best in Zambia. And many investors are really keen to continue to engage with the network that we're able to provide. And so in this time of COVID, we've now moved to online virtual pitching events, which are much shorter, but much more targeted. The first was held in December last year, and we've already seen some success out of that. There were 4 businesses that pitched, all 4 progressed into conversations with investors, and one of which is progressing further into an investment process. So what are some of the benefits for businesses? ICA provides a really practical support system for SMEs, but also systems to connect you with investors. For investors, we make project origination easier, and we make the opportunity to actually do a deal easier because we work to make sure businesses are investment ready. And that's why we've become, I think, a trusted partner on both sides of the deal-making equation. So not only does ICA actually support deals to be done, but we've also connected smaller Zambian businesses with larger Zambian businesses who are looking at now developing products together or sharing infrastructure and logistics networks. We've supported Zambian businesses to connect with local private sector partners to be able to undertake projects together. We've also brought new services and advisors into the market who can also support local businesses to be able to get themselves ready, to be able to maximize success of accessing finance. So all in all, ICA is a tool that's really, we're here to be practical, we're here to support, and we're here to work with you to be able to help you access finance. But you will get out of the ICA process what you put into the ICA process. So I think one of the key takeaways for you today is to make sure that if you decide to progress through the ICA journey, which I hope you will, that it's a journey that it takes investment from you, as well as hopefully receiving positive outcomes. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to one day hopefully meeting you in person. But in the meantime, please do engage with the ICA team and the Prospero team, and we look forward to hearing from you.
questions.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that video from Emma Parker. We still have our panel with Regina Malenga as the moderator, and a couple of people have joined. We still have Namaya Bukasita Lewanika from Prospero and Dr. Mwape from NAP, who will also be there to answer some of the questions which have been coming through. And I'm sure that you'll want answers to those. There are also, I think, Deb Wharton is probably in the room from ICA, as well as Tiffany Moore. So if they have any contributions or are able to answer those questions, please do come in when you hear a question that you think that you have some interesting insights to. So over to you, Regina. Is there any questions there that?
Yes, they are here. I just have to make sure that my eyes can read. I will have to slant a bit, but it's good. Is there any way they can be made a little bit bigger? Excellent. I'm on. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And now we proceed in the question and answer session. And we have the experts are here. I'll answer this one. Like, can we get a copy of the Prospero presentations? Signal keeps fading from time to time. I think Prospero people have heard that. And they will,
if I can just chime in there, Regina. All the presentations have been recorded and they will be available on the Prospero YouTube channel. So if you missed anything, don't worry about that. It is recorded and you'll be able to watch it, as well as lots of other on-demand videos after the event.
Now it's too small. I can't see. Technical.
I know that one of the questions was already asked, but the one was, could you, for innovation? I think this is a question for Prospero.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much for that question. The process of two ways in which people can apply for grants. We do calls for proposals, and these would come through our website, but they would also come through our social media pages. So I would advise anybody who's interested in the Prospero grant opportunity to look through our website and social media from time to time. Then alternatively, if you read through our website and you speak with us and you find out with us directly, using our generic email, and there are also opportunity-solicited proposals as and when they come in. So those are the two main ways that anyone can apply for grants through Prospero.
Quite an interesting one here, I'm sure, is that it says, how do you find an investor to be interested in your business? The biggest problem, which is the biggest problem in Zambia. And I think that's where Impact Capital Africa comes in. Perhaps one of the panelists can take up that. I don't know, I'm not sure, is Debs in the room? But certainly one of the things that we're working to with this roadshow, we're trying to get and help business to become investment ready. And the whole idea is it's leading up to Impact Capital Africa, the third season, which is a conference that is very innovative to try and bring together the SMEs to pitch their businesses to the impact investors. So that's certainly what Impact Capital is all about, is trying to bring the SMEs together with the investors. There's a couple of questions here. One is, obviously, circumstances vary by project, but is there a minimum expectation of a time period between starting the process of finding an investor and actually accessing the investor? What is it? How is that gestation period between actually presenting and actually perhaps getting and winning some kind of investment from an impact investor?
Yeah, perhaps I can take that, and maybe Manda can also chime in here. I don't think there's any specific time to raise investment, because there are a number of factors at play, including where exactly the business is. It also depends on the investment. It's almost like matchmaking dating. You might have to have several conversations with different investors, with different parties before you decide that an investment deal is right for you. And I think there's often a temptation, particularly from the SMEs, because oftentimes there's a desperation for money to just go with the first investor that comes by, but actually you have to make sure that the match is right. And it's not just from the investor perspective, but also from the SME perspective. So there's no set time frame. And I think there's also the expectation that this happens very quickly. That is most often not the case. If you heard what Mercy said, she was talking about a deal taking over 7 months. So that is also possible. But yeah, any of the other panelists can also chip in if they have any more to say.
I think to just add on to that, the quality of the data that's available, because the investor needs to do the due diligence as well, can affect the time frame. So generally speaking to SMEs, it's important to have your business information in a format that is easy for the investor. So that would be from your financials to your policies and anything else that the investor would require. So I'd say also the due diligence process and how easy it is to carry out the due diligence would affect the time frame of the process.
There's a question to Prospero. Reliable data is hard to find and put together in Zambia to enable decision-making for investors and business owners. In your experience or view, how receptive already are the potential users of such for this data from data analytics companies like yours?
Okay, thank you for the question. That's a great question. I think from experience, what I found is that after you've spent quite a lot of time searching, you actually do find that there's information. It's just that it's either not easily accessible, or there's a whole process in actually getting to the data, or alternative, at times the data maybe is not updated, or the data has gaps in it. So it is difficult, but I think that the key is we might need institutions that are able to ask for certain data to take the lead in terms of the National Impact Advisory Board. And from there, I think people should be able to access the data.
Okay, thank you for that. There was another question. Okay, technology is failing us, but I think I remember the question. The question is from Christine Smith. What do our local banks, why do our local banks not help SMEs with startups when they have contracts? We don't have a banker here representing a bank as to why they don't help. I think the best thing is to go and sit down once you have a contract as to why is it that they cannot deal with you. And again, I think because that's where you have business advisors, they can help you put that together for you and maybe assist you in engaging the banks. I'm not seeing any other question coming through here. Someone received a question. Clive. Okay. There's an anonymous attendee. Has the NABI thought of deliberately partnering with some of the enablers in Zambia to promote impact investing in tertiary education? I think this will go to Dr. Mabe.
Sorry, can you just repeat?
Okay. Has the NABI thought of deliberately partnering with some of the enablers in Zambia to promote impact investing in tertiary education?
Well, the NABI operates as a platform, as I had indicated, and it's a platform which is leveraged by stakeholders It engages stakeholders and to mobilize stakeholders and resources to drive the impact investment agenda. In terms of enablers, for example, we do partner with enablers. Prospero is an enabler, and we are partnering with Prospero to deliver some of the activities in the impact investment space. In terms of education specifically, there's currently work going on outcome-based financing. This is a live program trying to see how interventions in the labor markets, in education, and in health, how can we leverage outcomes to deliver impact in those areas? In as much as we have not partnered with any specific enabler in that space, but we are work in progress towards addressing some of those challenges in those areas.
Thank you very much, Adot. The two questions are coming out from Maureen Mwanawasa. What is coming out so far is partnerships, very encouraging. I'm in agriculture. What is expected of me to qualify? And the next one is my Alabama in Chongwe, and from the research I have done, our struggles which are common is access to tractors. Is the organization able to partner with us in this area? So I think that is directed to Kakumpe.
Well, actually, I'll defer that to Namaya.
Okay.
She signs the checks.
Thank you very much. So Namaya, could you kindly answer those two questions?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for those questions. And it's interesting to hear about the work that you're doing in Palawana in the farming space. I think one of the things that's critical is really to understand where exactly you are in your business, because depending on what phase you are in, it's more appropriate to get grant financing than impact investment capital. Because obviously, as you heard from one of the earlier speakers, Mercy, when we're talking about impact investors, especially under our growth initiative, you're really focusing on post-revenue businesses that have proven business models and are looking at growth. So if you're in the earlier stages, that might not be appropriate. So I think, to be honest with you, it would be good to deep delve into your business to find out exactly where you are and see what the most appropriate type of support would be. And some of this support could actually include technical assistance even before you're talking about financial assistance, or it could be talking about a combination of them. So it really depends where you are, but yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Namaya. And Alistair asks, does Prospero include projects in South Africa? Yes or no?
At the moment, Prospero primarily works within Zambia, and all the projects that we work with and most of the partnerships that we have are either Zambian-based or working with Zambian companies. That's how we're set up. Of course, the long-term about looking at Zambia as a regional hub. So in terms of our long-term vision, that could be an area that we look at, but at the moment we are Zambia focused.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question, what is the total amount of impact investment brought to Zambia so far? Maybe can I ask Debs? Hello?
Hi there, sorry, just sorting out some technical issues here, just getting back online. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again, Regina, please?
The question is, what is the total amount of impact investment brought to Zambia so far?
Okay, so Impact Capital Africa, as we've heard from Emma just now, we've been in operation since 2018, and this is our third season. And in that time, ICA has facilitated about $85 million worth of inward investment through that process. Of course, there have been some other deals outside that, so it will be more, but a lion's share comes through the ICA process, working with Prospero.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What are the biggest challenges for impact investors later stage? So we are not talking about the startups here. When trying to invest in SMEs in Zambia, investment readiness, question marks, scalability, corporate governance, valuations. I guess Antonia has given some challenges, but I would like her to believe that he wants her to hear from the others. Anyone for the takers, please. I will not point out to anyone. What are the biggest challenges for impact investors later stage when trying to invest in SMEs in Zambia? Can I have one of the panelists give me an answer, please?
If Mercy is still available, I think that would be a good one for her to take as an impact investor.
Mercy, are you still available? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Namai. So we focus on early stage, but I think I can speak to some of the issues that would be critical at kind of your expansion to later stage investors. And I think that definitely governance, corporate governance is a priority. At the point when, you know, an impact investor comes in, whether they're at the early stage and then at an early stage, there are minimum requirements that they would need from a business. But by the time that you're raising further rounds and you're getting to a point where you are growing and you're getting stable, there's an expectation of kind of best practices around corporate governance. But also another thing is valuation. So in the question, that the answers were already there. Valuation also becomes important at that stage, and negotiating the right valuation. I think valuation at all stages of the investment process, doesn't matter at which stage of which stage of a growth you are as a company, it's always a sticky point. It's always an area that you will spend lots of energies and times negotiating to ensure that it's reasonable, both from the investor point of view and for the company.
I'd also maybe add, I completely agree with Mercy in terms of the governance, because it underpins everything that you do. It you know, directly facilitates your value chain, your business support. But I would also say, in the context of impact investment, it is the formalization of your impact strategy and telling your impact story. And you know, given that we're talking about impact investment, and we'll present on this later, but you know, being able to convey not just your financial returns and your operational performance and governance, but framing how your business creates social or environmental impact, and being able to quantify that in the same way as you do your financial due diligence and your operational performance. It's obviously critical for your impact investors.
Okay, thank you. A bit of technology, so you bear with us. It's the new normal. There are two questions that have come directly for Kapumpe. It said, is Mr. Musakanya, Kapumpe is his first name. Kapumpe, what percentages did collaborative efforts influence your investors' decision to invest in your business? What percentages did collaborative efforts influence your investors' decision to invest in your business? I guess they are asking around what each party brought to the table.
Yeah. Let me describe some of the partnerships. If I talk about the partnerships with, let's say, the entity called Partners in Food, where you've got the Buller Group, Hershey's, and all those people sit there, that's hundreds of hours accumulated, which we wouldn't have been able to afford at the time. Hundreds of hours accumulated, which sits there and providing an output. And that provides assurance, certainly to anybody coming in, that it's been done correctly. I talk about the seed distribution, the other partnership with Live Well Social Enterprises, the seed distribution, that has served again on basically hundreds of thousands of dollars through synergies in terms of us getting tractors and our vehicles, etc., to do those operations out there. And likewise, the same with cattle fisheries. So the partnerships really take a significant amount of the risk or the ask away from whoever it is you're speaking to by more than 50%, in terms of by segmenting the roles. So you are essentially reducing the risk and making it more attractive by the correct partnerships and not doing it again yourself. So I'd say more than 50% by reducing our ask by 50% through partnerships.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And there is someone who didn't quite catch the practical steps that you and your company took to be investment ready. Can you just maybe summarize a little bit for?
I'd always consider it an ongoing process, and you don't reach one particular point and say it's ready, so continuous progress. So the team, as I said, is important. The data is really, really important to be able. We luckily have collected historical data about the markets, and not necessarily about what we have achieved, but by what we haven't achieved in terms of the missed opportunities because we didn't have the right investment. So you're quantifying the market with good evidence. So I think that makes it more attractive to anybody coming into the business. And again, I refer process of those optics to ensure that you are in the right position for investment. But okay. Lastly, I'll just talk about relationships. Your relationship with the partner is very important.
Governance is important. Can you elaborate what you mean by that? Messi, it's directly to you. Are you still here? If Messi is not around, can somebody else pick it, please?
Sorry, yes, Regina. Sorry, I was just having some technical issues. Yes, so at the point that we're investing, as I said previously, we come in quite early and we understand that a business is young and they won't have the same type of corporate governance that a more mature business would have. But there are certain basic elements that we do look for, and this also plays into how we assess the business. And so it's important to at least have a board of advisors if you haven't got a fully fledged board, and to, just the minimum requirements. Keeping minutes is important, records of your board meetings, having certain controls and risk management, because we will require annual financial statements. So they're just basic kind of elements of good corporate governance that we would be looking for. I would advise young businesses to concentrate on those type of things, because, for example, if you don't have if you don't have annual financial statements, 3-year annual financial statements, it makes it difficult to progress the deal and assess your business. So yes, those are the few things that I can speak to about the corporate governance.
Thank you, Messi. This question I'll take so that Prospero left clean, since I don't work for Prospero. The 2 video presentations on investment readiness are women. Is it one of the eligibility criteria? No, they are just the right people for the job. Okay, we continue with the questions. Keep rolling in. Please bring in more technical questions on impact investment, so that we can put these to the panel. Does Prospero charge a fee for the technical services that they provide? That's the next question. It's an anonymous caller.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Does Prospero provide charge people for the services? The quick answer to that is no. However, through the investment readiness support, we work through various financial or investment advisors that partner with us to provide that investment readiness support. And these are a pool of vetted investment advisors. And they typically charge for their services. However, what Prospero does is we come in with a cost share grant to end up reducing the cost of those advisory, typically quite a lot of money for the normal SME. So we come in to sort of help the SMEs to be able to afford that. That's on our investment side. And in terms of our grant side, obviously a lot of what we do are cost share grants. So we look at it as a with the SMEs rather than us giving out money. But we are co-investing in whatever you're doing, but we do not charge for our time personally.
Thank you, Namaya. The next question coming from Mianda Sulwe. How does a new SME in Zambia access angel networks?
It's actually very difficult because they don't exist at the moment. But there have been some high net worth individuals who have made investments. But it's difficult because first and foremost, the businesses don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. But also on the other end, a lot of times, even these high net worth individuals don't have access to a pool of investable businesses. So actually what we are trying to do through our partnership with MentorMe is to try and formalize this process by developing an angel investment network. Watch this space.
How does one apply for debt equity finance? I think it's a general question there. Debt equity finance, you approach the investor or the banker, and they will advise you on what you require to provide them so that they can make an assessment and give you a view as to whether they can support you or not. And there are a lot of people that are available to assist, and but the starting point is with your bankers.
Can I come in on that one, Regina?
Sorry?
Regina, can I come in on that one? On the practicalities of how you apply? Okay, so if you want to apply for debt or equity financing, one of the things you can do is consider coming through the Impact Capital Africa process. If you go onto the ICA website, there is a tab that says Raise. If you click on that, it explains exactly what you need to do to start that process. And you basically have to fill in a very small form that gives me the detail that, some very basic details. And we can certainly tell you very quickly whether you meet the basic criteria for applying through the ICA process. So it's very straightforward, and your form will come either to me or my colleague Tiffany, who's on this this session with me today. So that's a practical way of taking the next step.
Do we have any more questions? I seem to be running out of questions now. And as we are waiting for the few more questions are coming through, thank you very much, Deb, about that. I really appreciate. And perhaps you can just talk a little bit more around, you know, where you are located, in case people don't know. How do they get a hold of you?
Yes, certainly. Okay, so Impact Capital Africa has a website. It's impactcapafrica.com, and it's very straightforward. But if you struggle to find that, then any of the Prospero team would be able to give you the contact details for us. But if you just Google Impact Capital Africa, you will find our website.
Okay, and whilst I have you on the floor, perhaps you can also answer this question from Humphrey. How are the businesses and projects environmental social impact rated, quantified? How are the businesses or projects rated or quantified from an environmental social impact? And then 2, how do you choose which one of the projects has more environmental social impact?
Okay, so they're very good questions. Evaluating impact is, it's kind of an imprecise science, but through our experience of working with relevant companies over the years, we've got a very good feel for the sort of impact that investors are interested in. So we have a very simple system to evaluate the businesses that come through, and we look at each business on an individual basis. If we think that the impact that they have is the sort that our type of investor is interested in, then we help them develop their impact story to maximize how they can get those metrics across. There's no, because impact varies so much from company to company, there is no one system of measurement. There are some systems that are being developed, but they're very broad brushstroke. And actually, when it comes to investors, they're more interested in the detail of an individual company. And sorry, Regina, there was a second part to the question. Could you repeat that for me?
Certainly. I think it's related. How do you choose which one of the 2 projects has more environmental / social impact?
Again, we don't have fixed numbers of companies that we can work with. If a company meets the criteria and we think is relevant for the types of investors we work with, we basically turn no one away. So it's not a question of one or another. If you meet the requirements, we will do everything we can to help you.
Sorry, just to weigh in quickly, because we often have to reiterate this. We're obviously not a fund, but what we do is connect impact businesses with investors, which is why Deb says, what our job is to put as many eligible companies in front of investors as we possibly can. And, so if there's an impact story there, it's not a competition. We don't weigh it up. I mean, we're not going to say, well, this one is environmental, but this one helps women. We don't pick our favorites. And as Deb says, this is an evolving science. It's really the most important thing that businesses can do now is learn how to tell their story so that they can weave in those metrics, because investors, this is still a growing concept for investors as well. The idea that you are framing an investment with an impact story, they're also not that sure about what kind of metrics they want to see, but they want it to be as specific as possible. So what we help businesses do is evolve that thought and build that into how they scope and scale and strategize their impact. But yeah, it's not a competition. We don't, if you've got an impact story then and you're eligible for our other criteria, we don't, as Deb says, turn eligible applicants away.
Yes, I can hear you, Clive.
Yeah, I think the question was, if a business is very much weighted towards the environmental and social change side of things, but is not strong so much on the financials, just really the financials are there just to cover operational expenses and so on, would they say for impact investment?
I think that's a very good question. There are all sorts of different types of investors. There are people who are prepared to invest philanthropically, so they're not looking for any return on their capital at all. They will just give you what is effectively a grant. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have investors who are only interested in your in the bottom line, in what their potential return is. And then in between, there are different types of investors who have a different balance between impact and financial return. I would say that the majority of the investors that Impact Capital Africa works with are sort of somewhere in the middle, but they are investors, so they are looking for a return on their capital. but then again, there are one or two investors who are more motivated by the impact. So it would depend, but largely you've got to be a going concern, a proper growing business first. And there are lots of reasons for that, because if you're a growing business, actually you will continue to grow your impact and you will be sustainable. If you are doing things literally just to generate the impact, then there are all sorts of questions about long-term viability and whether you actually have the potential to grow that impact further. So I'm afraid there's no straight answer to that, but basically being a strong business is usually very good for your impact.
Okay.
I don't know whether Mercy would want to add to that, actually.
Yeah, I can jump in and just briefly, I do agree. I like what Deb said. She said, without you know, the financial aspect of the business, you're not sustainable. There's no impact. So without making money, there's no impact. The more you make money, the more you reach more people, the more you make the impact. For an investor such as us, we don't see the two as mutually exclusive. We want the impact and we want the returns as well, because we also have a duty to our investors, you know, who are also looking for returns, as well as the sustainability of the business that we are in. So there's no compromise. We want both the social and environmental impact, and we want the returns.
Regina, can I just chip in quickly? Yes. I think the question is trying to assess whether a company which gives weight to social impact does qualify as an impact investor. Yes, and it depends on the appetite of the impact investor. If you recall the definition I gave for impact investment, it's a whole array from risk-adjusted returns to concessional returns, where the financial returns are actually below market. But more importantly, they shouldn't go below zero. So within this spectrum, there will be a whole array of investors who will have different appetites depending on the weight they are giving to the social issues or the financial issues. I think most importantly, there has to be a positive return, financial return, or at least the company should be able to make, to break even, which we call a return on capital, a return of the capital deployed. So it will depend on the appetite of the impact investor.
Last words, and if I can just remind you, our discussion was putting a spotlight on Zambia as the regional hub for impact investment. So what are your last and closing remarks on this subject, looking at where the impact investment climate is in Zambia, what we have said needs to be done from an operating environment point of view, the businesses, the investors? What are your last thoughts on Zambia as a regional hub for impact investment?
I think
yes, Kapumpe?
Yeah, I'll start on that. And I said, COVID really underpinned the underperformance of our local supply chains. And previously, when our outlook was to try and ideally get to European or other types of markets, COVID totally removed that away. It's not entirely necessary. There's so much work to be done in Zambia and the region. And really, Zambia sits in a great space to be able to fulfill these local supply chains. And there's a great opportunity for that.
Okay.
Prospero?
Sure. I think the last remarks will be directed at the SMEs that are listening in. as mentioned throughout this discussion, there are quite a number of resources that are available, and the market is ripe for investment. We have investors that are ready and willing to invest in companies in Zambia. So I think that it's important that SMEs look into partnering, look into contacting Prospero and ICA, and really structure their business in such a way that they understand investor readiness, understand what the investor is looking for. And when you come to the table with the investor, you're essentially speaking the same language and you're on the same page, and just basically taking advantage of the current environment where everything has lined up to facilitate investment in our country.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we've had obviously a flurry of questions, and we so appreciate the way that businesses are engaging, and what Prospero does. I mean, the panelists, to have such experienced people on the panel, and I think the overarching message is that there are investors that are interested in Zambia, and what ICA and Prospero do. Fundamental tenet of our partnership is crowding in that investment because we see so many promising businesses in Zambia. And fundamentally, very similar to a lot of the comments that have been made, it is about understanding your gaps. A lot of these businesses, they function every day. And for them, especially after COVID, the fact that they've survived is a truly monumental achievement. And that so many of them do well. So it is just about understanding what investors want to see and translating what you do on a daily basis in your operations into something that investors can understand, digest, and get behind, and being able to present that to investors. And the opportunities are there. So, well, I think we look forward to hearing from a lot of you.
Thank you. Messi? Messi, your last words? Okay, Deb.
Right. Yes. So in terms of the impact investment climate, I think if you'd asked me this a year ago, I would have been very gloomy, because the first thing that happened when COVID hit was that a lot of investors became even more cautious than they normally are. But I think that is changing. And we, as was mentioned earlier, we conducted an online pitching event just before Christmas. And we thought that that would be difficult, but actually we had a lot of investors who registered, signed up, came, participated, and indeed have followed up with ongoing investment conversations. And we have one deal on the table. So a year ago, I would have been very gloomy. Right now, I know it's still tough. I'm not saying it's easy, but actually the investment climate is more positive now than it has been in the last 12 months. So for the right businesses that are well prepared, know what they're doing, have a very strong story, both a business story and an impact story, actually, there's everything to go for.
Thank you. Dr. Mape?
Yeah, I think from my side, I'm looking at the bigger picture and the opportunities that impact investment brings to the table. I think it creates an opportunity for government and the private sector to collaborate in interrogating the economic ecosystem, to refine it and ensure that it now functions in a manner that is aligned to delivering the social issues of concern, which has eluded us for quite a long time. So it is, in my view, a very positive collaboration.
Thank you very much. Is Messi back? If she's not back, can I can we hear the last closing remarks from Namaya, who also, I'm sure, speak on behalf of Prospero.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Regina. In terms of your specific topic around Zambia as a regional hub, the realities are that Zambia is far from becoming a regional hub. But I think there are a lot of good opportunities for Zambia to work towards that by building our own internal systems, our own internal procedures, by having a more collaborative approach with the various partners that are working within the ecosystem to make impact investment a reality for many Zambian companies that need to access it. And I think obviously there have been a lot of issues that have happened in terms of COVID that has been a reality that has hit the world, not just Zambia, in terms of even this impact investment space. But I think we are also have the opportunity to learn how to cope and work around this, to continue to promote our own Zambian businesses, to continue to promote Zambia as a destination for impact investment. And as we solidify our own internal systems, I think the reality of Zambia as a regional hub will become possible.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, all the panelists. I think we've come to the end of the program. It's been a pleasure to host you. And, you know, I'm very confident that from this discussion, a lot more will come through going forward, and we'll forge ahead in making Zambia a hub for impact investment that, you know, we desperately need. Thank you. Clive?
Thank you very much, Regina. This discussion and question and answer session. Thanks a lot. So pretty much that concludes the morning session. Thank you very much indeed.